It was meant to be a celebration, a bright and joyful moment on Today with Jenna and Friends. Carrie Underwood, one of country music's most respected and beloved voices, had agreed to appear to talk about her new album and her upcoming tour. The studio audience was buzzing with anticipation, clapping and cheering as she walked across the stage, radiant in her usual mix of elegance and down-to-earth charm. Cameras panned across smiling faces as the hosts welcomed her. At first glance, it promised to be another smooth, light-hearted segment. Laughter, compliments, stories of music, and family. But within seconds of sitting down on the soft pastel couch beside Jenna Bush Hager, the mood shifted. What began as a casual chat about balancing motherhood with a demanding career turned unexpectedly tense. Jenna, smiling brightly, leaned in and asked a question she likely thought was harmless. Do you ever feel like your image is what people focus on more than the artistry? The air in the studio tightened. Carrie's smile faltered ever so slightly, her posture stiffening. A ripple of unease moved through the audience. She didn't raise her voice, but her words cut cleanly, steady, yet edged with irritation. I've worked too hard, for too long, for anyone to say my career is about an image, she replied, her southern charm intact, but her tone firm enough to hush the room. The crowd gasped softly, while Jenna laughed nervously, trying to backpedal. I didn't mean it that way. I meant it as a compliment, she insisted, her hands fluttering in a small gesture of retreat. But the words had already landed like a thunderclap. Carrie wasn't laughing. Instead of easing the tension, Jenna pushed further, commenting about the pressure female artists face to look flawless in the country music industry. The statement, likely intended to shift blame onto industry standards, only pushed Carrie further toward the edge. Carrie leaned forward, locking eyes with Jenna, her voice lower but sharper. I am more than a look, more than a headline, more than what anyone thinks they see, she said. The audience burst into applause, clearly siding with her defiance. Jenna chuckled again, trying to sprinkle humor into the crackling air, but Carrie wasn't in the mood to be softened. She adjusted, herself in her seat, visibly uncomfortable. Jenna quickly pivoted, asking about Carrie's children, but the tension hung thick and unshakable. Even Hoda, sitting beside Jenna, shifted awkwardly, sensing the situation spiraling. Odacott, the guest contributor that day, attempted to steer the conversation back to safer waters, but Carrie was already done with the niceties. I didn't come here to defend myself or my life choices, she said firmly, her voice ringing through the studio. I came here to share music, and it feels like we've lost sight of that. Once again, the audience applauded loudly, their cheers carrying a note of solidarity. Jenna blinked, stunned, unsure how to regain control. Still trying, Jenna forced a strained laugh and muttered, Well, Carrie, you sure know how to make an interview unforgettable. The line, meant to lighten the mood, instead collapsed like glass hitting the floor. Carrie froze, her jaw tightening. After a long pause, she shook her head in disbelief. If unforgettable means being reduced to a stereotype on national television, then I guess you're right, she shot back, her words sharp enough to make the audience gasp audibly. Jenna's face flushed crimson. The chemistry between host and guest shattered completely. Carrie's patience had run out. She pushed back her chair, the sound of her heels clicking on the floor echoing through the silent studio. I don't need this, she said, her voice trembling slightly with frustration but carrying undeniable power. She adjusted her jacket, gave a respectful nod to the audience, and stormed off the stage. The crowd gasped again, half in shock, half in admiration. Jenna and Hoda sat frozen, eyes wide, mouths parted. For several seconds, the room was pure chaos before the producers cut hastily to a commercial break. But the damage was done. The moment was real, raw, and already impossible to contain. Within minutes of airing, clips of Carrie's dramatic walk-off were flooding social media. On Twitter, hashtags like Chicks Stand With Carrie and Respect Artists shot to the top of trending lists worldwide. Fans praised her for standing up for herself, for refusing to be minimized. "That's why she's an icon," one tweet read, quickly amassing thousands of likes. Others defended Jenna, suggesting she'd been misunderstood, but the overwhelming tide leaned in Carrie's favor. Producers behind the scenes scrambled for damage control. Jenna released a brief statement after the show, saying she had nothing but respect for Carrie and regretted how her words had come across. But critics weren't satisfied. Many accused her of being dismissive, unprepared, and careless with her phrasing. Meanwhile, Carrie's team confirmed she had left the studio immediately after the confrontation, refusing to speak with waiting reporters outside. Her silence only deepened the intrigue. Later that evening, Carrie finally broke that silence with a short Instagram post. "Never let anyone define your worth. You know who you are. Always stand tall." She didn't name Jenna or the show, but the message was unmistakable. Fans flooded the comments with encouragement, calling her brave, and praising her for showing strength. The post went viral instantly, transforming the clash into something larger, a cultural flashpoint about respect, women in entertainment, and the cost of always being reduced to appearance. By the next morning, major media outlets were running, with headlines like "Carrie Underwood storms off live TV" and "Clash on Today, a superstar refuses to be reduced." Ratings for the show spiked, but so did backlash. Jenna's reputation came under heavy scrutiny, with viewers demanding an on-air apology. On the very next episode, Jenna faced the storm directly. Sitting at the desk, visibly nervous, she said, "I want to say I'm sorry if my words hurt Carrie or anyone watching. I respect her as an artist and as a person. I truly never meant to make her feel diminished." Some viewers applauded the gesture, but many others criticized how quickly she pivoted back to lighthearted chatter afterward. Critics called it shallow and unconvincing. Carrie, on the other hand, stayed quiet, letting speculation swirl. Her silence made her seem even stronger, as if she didn't need to explain herself further. When she finally addressed the incident 2 nights later on a late-night talk show, the audience greeted her with a standing ovation before she even spoke. Smiling softly, she explained, "I didn't storm off because I was angry for the sake of being angry. I walked away because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is remove yourself from a situation that doesn't respect your truth." Her words spread across platforms, shared millions of times. Juxtaposed against the footage of her storming off, her calm explanation painted her as the clear victor. Editorials sprang up in major outlets, analyzing how the clash represented a larger cultural issue, how women in entertainment are so often judged by appearance instead of substance, and how Carrie's refusal to tolerate it resonated deeply with audiences. Meanwhile, tensions simmered behind the scenes of Today. Producers, frustrated that Jenna's misstep had overshadowed weeks of planned programming, began questioning her approach with high-profile guests. Rumors swirled that publicists were reconsidering sending celebrities onto the show, worried about unpredictable moments turning into viral disasters. The program, once seen as a reliable space for feel-good television, now carried an air of volatility. Carrie, in contrast, leaned into the moment with grace. At her next concert, she paused mid-performance to address the crowd. Her voice carried across the arena. "Life has a way of testing us in public, but what matters is how we respond. Never let anyone belittle you. Stand tall, even if it means standing alone." The audience erupted in cheers, chanting her name. Videos of the moment flooded social media, amplifying her message of empowerment. Other celebrities chimed in, some praising Carrie for her strength, others cautiously defending Jenna by pointing out how live television can magnify awkwardly phrased comments. But the momentum stayed firmly on Carrie's side. To many, she wasn't just a country star anymore. She had become a symbol of dignity, strength, and self-respect in the face of belittlement. What began as a promotional interview had exploded into one of the most talked-about live television moments in years. In the end, Jenna was left to mend her reputation, while Carrie walked away with something far greater than publicity for her album or tour. She had reclaimed her narrative, reminding the world that she was, and always will be, more than an image. And though the fallout continued for days, one thing was clear. Carrie's walk-off wasn't a meltdown. It was a declaration that an artist's worth could never be reduced to appearance, and that sometimes the bravest act isn't staying seated. It's standing up, turning away, and walking out with your head held high.